Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live from Mackey Arena, officially for the first time this season with our wrap video following Purdue's 84-53 season opening win over Milwaukee. You might know them as UW Milwaukee, Wisconsin Milwaukee, the good land. However you know these guys, the Panthers of Milwaukee came in here to open the season against Purdue. For Purdue to open its season, Milwaukee played against a bunch of engineering students last night, so they were playing their second game. Anyway, Purdue wins 84-53. Thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel, as always, for your promotional considerations here next time you're on campus and you need accommodations. Please keep in mind the Purdue Club Hotel. You will not be sorry. That's exactly how they want me to say it, by the way. I'm quite certain not. All right, so we'll dive right into this. I'm going to try to keep this concise. You know how that typically goes for me. But Purdue wins 84-53. A couple of quick takes here. One, obviously, the story of this game is kind of sort of Purdue's freshman guards. I think in Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, you have a combination here that is going to be really important to Purdue this season, but also a foundation for your program for the next several years to come. Both of those guys are going to be really good at Purdue, I think. They're going to be really good together. And I think you saw flashes tonight of what those guys are capable of. I think in Braden Smith you see a player who this place is going to love. The scrappiness he plays with, the heart he plays with, all of those sorts of things, but also the basketball IQ he plays with, the selflessness he plays with. Another one of these guys who kind of lives for those around him as a basketball player, kind of falls in line with what this team has a lot of. Ethan Morton's this way. Brian Waddell is this way. Caleb First is going to show you he's a little bit this way too when he shows his passing, gets a chance to show what he can do as a passer. I think this team's got a lot of selflessness to it, and I think Braden Smith is going to be one of the faces of it. I think Fletcher Lawyer is as skilled an offensive player as Purdue has signed, and I'm lumping him in right in there with Dakota Mathias and Ryan Klein and some of these other guards Purdue has had that are not just really good shooters, but just outstanding offensive basketball players, guys who you are a better offensive team just by having them on the floor. He started off slowly shooting the ball today, made a bunch of threes that I've seen him make probably 60% of the time throughout his youth basketball career, high school, AAU, whatever it might be. When he was like 1 of 5 in the first half, you kind of got a feeling he was due for like 3 or 4 in a row to go down. Just kind of shooter he is. Probably had to settle in a little bit, this being his first game in Mackey Arena. Sometimes the adrenaline kicks in a little bit. You kind of got to let things settle in a little bit. And sure enough, in the second half, he goes on that very run, ends up leading Purdue in scoring with 17 points. Made 5 threes, played an excellent floor game, I thought, 3 assists, no turnovers. Devolving into read the box score guy here. I have to avoid doing that. But both of those guys were excellent tonight. The crowd really responded to them, as I think, you're due for 2 or 3 years. Why did I say 2 or 3 years? The balance of their careers. These guys are going to be Mackey Arena favorites. They're going to be foundational players for Purdue. The combination thereof. This is your backcourt. Potentially this year, next year, the year after that, and the year after that. This could be one of those deals where you watch these guys grow up into great players as upperclassmen at Purdue. You never know nowadays. Between the pros, between the transfer portal, whatever it might be, you never want to say, okay, these guys are here for good. But I would think that this is a situation where this is stability here at Purdue. These guys growing up into great players together over a very long period of time, and that's something Purdue I think should be very excited about. Those guys were great tonight. I thought Purdue showed a lot of substance in this first game. I thought they were relatively good defensively, compared to what they need to be this year. I thought Ross-Ade was an absolute force defensively, making up for some of his struggles at the offensive end. I thought Purdue was on top of things. There weren't a whole lot of breakdowns from a defensive perspective that I saw live. There were a couple of turnovers that led to baskets. Clean that kind of stuff up. Purdue had no issue with the press, I didn't think. But I thought that Purdue did a pretty good job defensively, and that's got to be not just an adequate part of Purdue's repertoire this season, but it's got to be a strength. I think you have to be no worse than good from a defensive perspective. And what I mean by good is stable, reliable, consistent, not like, top 5 in the Big Ten or whatever it might be. That would be lovely for Purdue if it could do that, but I think you just have to be consistent. You can't have a good game, you can't have a terrible game, you can't have an okay game and then an awful game and then a great game, and so on and so forth. And that you can extrapolate that to possession, half to half too, because that's something where Purdue in recent years has struggled with as well. I'm fighting the urge to compare this season to last season, even though I've already called an embargo on that, a moratorium on that, because this is a distinctly different team at Purdue from the team last year. But the constants all remain the same, and one of them Purdue has to at least be solid and consistent from a defensive perspective. I do think you saw some risk-taking tonight that Purdue might want to be a little bit more level-headed with. I think that's part of the nature of what makes Braden Smith good, for one thing, but he's going to learn to pick his spots a little bit. I don't know if it really cost Purdue all that much. I think you can do a little bit better job against the dribble, a lot better job against the dribble, containing the basketball, keeping it out of the paint. You saw a few lapses in that tonight, but that's part of the process here. That's what November and December are going to be for this team, is improving every time you go out there, or improving every week you're out there, not necessarily every single game, because not every game is created equal, but you want to see them be better one week to the next week, and then the next week after that, and then December should be better than November, and then by the time Big Ten play rolls around, you should hopefully be the best version of yourself that you're going to be this season. It is going to be a process. I think everybody needs to keep that in mind. The 2 freshman guards were really good tonight. There's going to be ups and downs. Every freshman has their ups and downs. There is such a thing as the freshman wall. But for one night anyway, both of those guys were great. Just be prepared for some turbulence here, folks. I'm going to make sure I remind you of that constantly, because I'm a blowhard, and I love to rain on your parades. That's what I'm here for. I thought Purdue did a decent job taking care of the basketball. I think, one small issue was, the backup point guard issue is going to be something worth monitoring. I think Ethan Morton had some difficulty a little bit bringing the ball up against pressure, as, 6'6" point guards, as can happen, as is perfectly natural for that to happen. I think, Purdue finally there in the second half gave him a backcourt screener to get him a little bit of space, but I think the backcourt, the backup point guard situation is something that obviously we've spent a lot of time talking about and probably won't stop talking about anytime soon here. But David Jenkins is out tonight. He fits into that mix, so we'll see what he's capable of bringing to that position. In the half court, I don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters all that much. But against a pressuring team like Milwaukee, both pressing and just getting up into the ball on you, there is some diciness here when Braden Smith's not on the floor. And you also run the risk, too, of games like this, by the end of the game, Braden Smith being worn out. He's going to need some time to catch his breath on the bench at times, and you're just going to have to weather some issues there if there are issues. But Purdue has to get that figured out. But I think you saw a team tonight that really wants to share the ball, that is relatively refined doing it for a team full of new guys, returning guys playing new roles, and guys who've never played in these sorts of surroundings before, both in terms of the college environment, but also playing alongside a big guy like Ross-Ade and having wired yourself to focus on him above all else. I think you saw some savvy in Purdue, knowing where shooters are, understanding how to set them up. There were a couple of plays that really stood out with those 2 freshman guards. One was the fast break Braden Smith started off the steal he generated, dropping down into the post to slap the ball away from Jalen Johnson, trying to post up Caleb First. He really executed that fast break well, because he He used different tempos to allow Trey Kaufman-Renn to get out in front of him to generate an angle and to set up his own pass. That's a guy who's done that before. That's a guy who knows what he's doing running fast breaks. The other one was, I can't remember how Fletcher Loyer started this fast break, but they get out running. Fletcher Loyer's handling the ball on the open floor. Brandon Newman runs right to the corner, and you could see 80 feet away, Fletcher Loyer seeing Brandon Newman, knowing what Brandon Newman was going to do, and Fletcher Loyer intentionally drifting toward the middle of the floor to make sure the defense had to worry about the other guy on the other side of the floor. He looked off Newman, and then he made the pass to Newman. Newman makes the three from the corner. That was, again, a freshman running a fast break like they have done this before, even though they haven't done this before at this level. There's just a lot of innate basketball savvy in those two guys offensively. It's going to make a big difference for this team. I think Purdue has a lot of offensive savvy. I think you have to love, he's not putting up numbers, but Brian Waddell is doing really, really positive things off the bench. Ethan Morton is made for this stuff. These are guys who make for good offensive basketball. And I think you're going to enjoy watching this team play offense. They just need their experience levels to start to match up with their savvy levels. And once that happens, and once Purdue has some established finishers around them, and I think Brandon Newman's off to a hell of a start in this regard, and I think Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to do a good job with this, and the best of Caleb Furst this season is yet to come. David Jenkins doesn't play tonight. He's a shot maker. Once you get your finishers in place around some of these ball movers and ball sharers, you have all the makings of what could be a really fun offensive basketball team here. Another thing about Purdue's offensive showing tonight, you got to get garbage points. You've heard me in these silly videos for years now, just harping on garbage points. And what Purdue's been able to do on the offensive glass and what we've seen of them thus far and what we haven't seen of them thus far in terms of the private scrimmage, this should be a really good offensive rebounding team. And they're doing the right things off the offensive rebounds. If they don't have a putback, they're getting the ball out, they're getting open threes off of it. The guys who are getting the first pass are making the second pass. The guy with the offensive rebound is putting himself in a position to get the hockey assist, which is often more important in those situations than the actual assist, because it's what got the whole ball rolling. They're doing good things off offensive rebounds. They're getting points off them. They're getting open threes off them. Zach-Edey is going to be better than he was around the rim. That's going to be my next point here. But also, Purdue gets a ton of points off of turnovers tonight. I don't know if this is going to be a great fast break team, but they were really good tonight. As I mentioned before, the plays Smith and Loyer made, this is a team that's going to be able to get kick-ahead threes at times and do a good job with it. Their backup bigs especially can really run the floor. Mason Gillis is playing like his hair's on fire here, running the floor. His effort has been exemplary, as it always is here to start this season. Caleb Furst runs the floor like a deer. Trey Kaufman-Renn is really trying hard in that regard as well. I think this can be an okay fast break team. I don't think this is going to be 1990s UNLV by any means, but I think they're going to be good enough at it to run off rebounds at times, especially when Braden Smith's on the floor, maybe exclusively when Braden Smith's on the floor, but also off turnovers. I don't think this is going to be the highest pressure defensive team, so when I look at Milwaukee committing 21 turnovers, I give Purdue credit for that. Braden Smith made a lot of plays, obviously. He was very aggressive. Zach-Edey got between Milwaukee's ears and created some turnovers. But also, I think you're probably looking at a team with 13 new guys playing for the second time in 24 hours, probably having a little bit to do with that too. But credit to Purdue for taking advantage. The more points you can steal, the better off you are. You look at this game and Purdue scores 84 points, but they only shoot 38% for the game. Here's the deal there. When you look at an outlier game for Zach-Edey, and I'm saying it's an outlier game when it's the only game he played this season. The Cincinnati scrimmage, he struggled from the floor a little bit too, but you have a guy who you need to be shooting 60%, going 4 of 13 from the floor, but also this atypical number of him, Caleb Furst, and Trey Kaufman-Renn on 2-point field goals, going 8 of 23 from the floor. Almost every night this season, that's going to be 15 of 23. And if you're 15 of 23, suddenly you're at 100 points and you're shooting 45%, and not 38% or 39%, whatever it was. So whatever was going on around the basket for Purdue's big guys today, that's not something that's going to be a constant for this team. It's simply the laws of physics, the laws of big people versus little people, and the aggregate talent level of Ross-Ade, Caleb Furst, and Trey Kaufman-Renn suggest that is going to be 15 of 23, 8 times out of 10, 8 out of 23, 1 time out of 10, if that. And that was tonight. So when you look at the offensive productivity, you probably have an outlier there. But Purdue, for a team that's built to get the ball to the rim, got to be much better doing that. I wouldn't anticipate that being a problem, but you never know what the problems are going to be. It's only the first game of the season. We will see how things stand the test of time here. But I thought this was a solid start for Purdue. Obviously, a lot to work on here. I think you need to be better defensively. As I said, you need to do a better job cashing in your opportunities offensively around the basket. So on and so forth. I tried to keep this under 15 minutes. I'm going to try to get to 16 here. I got 10 more seconds. That's what I got, folks, from Purdue's 84-53 win over Milwaukee, the only major American city to have ever elected 3 socialist mayors. Thank you to the Premium Club Hotel for your support. I appreciate it very much. Go to goldenblack.com tonight for all of our coverage. Remember, we still have a deal. You can join our new site on the On3 network at goldenblack.com for only $1 for a year. You can't beat that. You cannot beat $1 for 12 months of entertainment. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. And thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And I will talk to you guys again Friday night after Purdue takes on Fly Williams and the Fighting Austin Peas of Austin P. So, thanks, everybody.